Hey, so we want to talk a little bit about the presidential polls. The higher the president stands in the polls, the less support he needs in Congress. The shorter the president's coattails, the less need there is for presidential public appearances. The easier it is to persuade others to support presidential initiatives, or the less likely he will initiate new policy ventures. Letter A, the less support he needs in Congress doesn't make a lot of sense because he still needs the support, although he's more likely to get the support because he does have a higher approval rating in the polls. The shorter the president's coattails, well, no, that would be different. That would be the exact opposite because the president has longer coattails if he's running for election, re-election to the presidency, and then he could bring other people along with him if, in fact, he does have some high approval ratings in the polls. The less need there is for presidential public appearances, probably not, because he'd be more likely to make public appearances because he could help his agenda, help his candidates that he supports if they're running for office. So maybe not a need for it, but there would be a want for it, and so he would probably do it. So there's not an argument to be made for there's less need. The less likely he will initiate new policy ventures. No, as a matter of fact, with approval rating high, with public polls high for the president, he's likely to introduce new policy ventures and initiatives because he knows he can probably get things done because he's so high in the polls. So the correct answer would be the easier it is to persuade others to support presidential initiatives. So if the president knows he has the support of the people and those people who he's working with or against know that he has more support for the people, it's a lot easier to persuade those to support his initiatives because he's got the backing of the people. One more question here. Presidential press conferences give the president a chance to be spontaneous, have not been used since the Nixon administration, are not very useful means of eliciting information, are required by the Constitution without saying how often, are small, intimate meetings with the president. Only one of these is accurate. They usually do not, in contemporary American politics, give the president a chance to be spontaneous. It happens once in a while, but it's rare. Used to happen a lot more in the 60s. Kennedy, take a look at some Kennedy press conferences. Funny stuff, witty, clever, banter, and a bit spontaneous. But this is nothing like the British House of Commons where they have question time of the Prime Minister. It's clearly not that. This is scripted, and he'll give a speech. He'll know who to call on. He'll know probably what the questions are going to be and have his pat answers, sound bites ready to go. Have not been used since the Nixon administration. That, of course, is not true because they have been used by every administration. Some use fewer, some use more, but they all use them. Are required by the Constitution without saying how often? No. Presidential press conference is not required by the Constitution. The presidential address to the Congress on the State of the Union is required in the Constitution, although it doesn't have to be a speech. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, it was a letter, but then there was radio and TV, so it made it that much better and easier for the president to give a speech. The press conferences are not small, intimate meetings with the president. That's something different. This is a big room, bunch of people, lots of cameras, presidential press conference. So the only answer here would be that presidential press conferences are not very useful means of eliciting information. Sure, the president's out there to give his take on things. He does answer some questions, but there's usually not a lot of new news that's broken during presidential press conferences because it is a lot of scripted stuff and a lot of sound bites and a lot of spin sometimes, but it's really the president trying to stay on message to get his agenda out there to the public. 2 questions, MC questions, multiple choice.